I don't think they have that much loyalty. I think Smashers do. I did with Dignitas when I was with them because I had nothing, and then y'all picked us up from the streets, and then now we love it, right? Like we are org people.
Yeah.
And imagine if you had that with bigger entities like your league players.
Put my headphones on and played my favorite song and drifted off to a different space.
So what's up, Chris?
How's it going, man?
My name's Hugo.
Nice to meet you.
Hugs is my tag, and I played Smash since 2004 and have been involved in esports in every kind of way since.
Yeah. No, I'm aware.
Yeah.
I'm Chris. My handle is Kringle.
Okay.
Because Chris Kringle.
Nice.
Get it?
Yeah, I get it.
It's very popular for 1 month. And yeah, I started in esports back like 9 or 10 years ago with Red Bull Gaming, the whole Mr. Bitter and Rob Simpson, And currently, I'm the Senior Director of Events and Live Broadcasts at Team Liquid.
Cool. Yeah, all right. So let's get unmuted on the vibe on esports.
Let's do it.
So I was telling you earlier, before esports was a term, like that word didn't exist yet. You just played video games real good, you beat some of your friends, and then you move on, right? But I kept obsessing over it, and then eventually, like, esports happened to me. Like, esports was created, Smash stuck around, and then all of a sudden this thing I was good at, well, somebody wants to pay me for it. So cool, I'll stick around. And so in that sense, I'm very lucky that this happened, because that's like a 1 in a million that this old game happens to stick around. First of all, esports has to start.
Yeah.
And then Smash has to stick around. And then I also still have to be kind of good at the game. So then it worked out, and that's brought me into this whole world of wherever it's taken me.
Yeah.
A lot of different places.
Well, because you also do a bunch of hosting now too, right?
Yeah, so I do commentary for events. I do just different appearances for whatever they need me to do, to host, or whatever. When they need like some kind of gaming face for whatever, I'm like down to do it, Just because I've been around for so long, maybe, been around for so long, so maybe, I don't know, people want to hear what I have to say about it sometimes.
I think that makes total sense though, because like I don't like the term esports dinosaur, but
I am one.
Kind
but
of
yes.
is, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's really valuable to have that information and that insight from people who have been there from the beginning. They were part of the roots.
Seen it change. Transform. Since this thing's been going on for so long, I feel like right now we're in a spot where, at least I think it's very clear that things are declining in a way. And some people say that it's because we were in a bubble and now we're kind of stabilizing.
I totally agree. I don't think like people are like the bubble's popped. I like the term we're in an esports winter.
Okay. I think the bubble popped.
You think it popped? You actually think it like fully popped?
Okay, maybe I don't know the full definition of what that term means, but to me it means that we were bigger than we should have been.
Yeah.
And now we pop, and then we stabilize, and then we grow in a way that actually is more sustainable and makes more sense. I'm not saying that we've reached our peak. I think we could exceed that. But we have to grow in a different way, and we have to grow more slowly. We have to like the money coming in has to match what we're putting out there.
Yeah.
You know?
In that sense, then I completely agree. Yeah. I think we needed this though. Like I don't think this is a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's bad in the short term for sure for all kinds of people, including me. But
it's painful. Yeah. I mean, like you know, I've only been at Liquid now for like a year and a half, and it's rough, right? Like it's rough in esports. I've watched a bunch of friends get laid off at other orgs and whatnot. We're watching orgs like kind of teetering on maybe not even existing in a year or so.
Yes.
But I think that's necessary for us to come back stronger.
Yeah.
And I think now is when everybody is kind of figuring out, okay, these are things that weren't working. These are things that were unsustainable. Now that all the money's pinched from VCs and all this investment that flowed in, what can we do to help us stand alone the next time this happens?
Right. Next time there's an opportunity for growth and all that. So you're not of the opinion that it's going to die overall, which to me tells me that you believe that the interest from the viewership and the fans is still there, which I think is the only thing that keeps this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm excited about it. That's why I wanted to stay in esports, is I think that this is still a baby, right? There's so much room for growth. And I think the industry itself has so many other micro industries that are kind of growing up around it too. Like there's very specific tech needs now. There's very specific production needs now. Travel and logistics. It's different working with esports teams and orgs than it is working with an NFL team. Things like that. So all of this
things that the infrastructure wasn't built for it, right? I remember initially we were always trying to make the ESPN of esports.
Yeah,
everything was like
that was the catchphrase.
Like a talk show about the game. Like it has to be exactly like sports, and then it just never really caught on. It just wasn't the right thing. So all kinds of money went into that, and it didn't work. And I think there was a lack of understanding that this whole thing is just built different, and therefore it needs to be approached differently.
A lot of that money came in, and I think it was top down. It was like, here's what we want to do. Here's what we're going to try and like we want to envision, and we're going to mirror it off of traditional sports. But esports came up from the bottom. Yeah. So it needs that investment at the grassroots scene, and then to grow from there. I also think like today's audience wants to feel that they are a part of it and that they own it and that they've helped shape it.
Okay.
Whereas in traditional sports, for as long as you and I have been alive, it's kind of been the same thing. Sure, it's like matured a bit.
Yes.
But we never felt like we had a say in how that was done. We feel the opportunity to have a say in how this is done.
Right.
And so
because it's just ours now.
Yeah. So like
everyone else left.
Yeah, and we don't really want it to be. But a lot of those people did leave, right? The top down people. Yeah, exactly. Good riddance. Yeah. I agree.
And to that point, I think we're in a better place to handle that anyway, right? Like let's say this bubble popped in like 2007, we're screwed. Like
that would have been
we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
We have no experience, and the people that did. Like the people that have experience now and have that knowledge and have that industry like know-how, they're the people that came up with us.
Yeah.
So now when you see some VC or some tech leader or executive, it's like, wait, they actually played Halo at MLG 2006. They kind of know what they're doing now.
Yeah.
They're not just treating this, because back then it was probably a lot more suits who really didn't know what to make of it. They just saw that there were eyes coming, and then they were told that it's going to be the next Super Bowl or bigger.
Yeah, it's going to be bigger.
And
than
then
sports.
just cha-ching, they just put their money in, but they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that. I think there is opportunity to become better than we were before. I don't know exactly what the path is, though. I think that's a little beyond me. I have ideas. But,
I think that's what all the teams are doing right now is trying to figure out, right? Like everybody's got this different monetization approach. So you've got like 100 Thieves has their Juvie drink.
Yeah.
Cloud9 has their custom fan, like really restricted fandom Stratus.
Okay. Yeah.
Team Liquid has Liquid Plus, an app that we're using to, build a community around.
Yeah. So like this is like esports specific type of Discord thing? Is that for not just Liquid, but I mean like Cloud9 sounds similar, like a way to just keep the community engaged with each other?
I have never been in Stratus, but there's like custom merch drops. There's custom like if you're in it, you get specific meet and greet privileges. I'm pretty sure there's their own Discord where like more of the players and Jack and VIPs will hang out, things like that. I think even 100 Thieves they've been saying they're working on a game now, right? Like, is their goal to like be their own studio too? Like,
I've heard that's been a goal. Yeah. Whether that's the right move, I don't know. I could see it being, but like what they just make their own esport game.
I think my take on it, and this is just getting like really like deep in it, is a lot of the issues esports teams have with monetization is because we're dealing with who owns that IP, and they're very restricted in it, right?
I mean, tell me about
I think there's a company that works with Smash that makes it kind of difficult.
Yeah,
for you guys
they're a little
to do
tough to deal with.
Stuff.
They love. We talk to their lawyers more than any of their actual people.
But now we're gonna see, like, as we come through this hardship area, right? Like, what of those is working best?
It sounds like people are monetizing what the Smash scene just kind of had to have from the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I do. I end up having a different perspective on all this because, I mean, if esports is a grassroots thing, Smash is like the omega grassroots esport.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's
Truly.
like the sense of community and the building from the ground up. Very familiar with. So then hearing that they're doing that now on a bigger scale, but on a scale that makes money. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's good, and that's good for the scene.
Exactly.
You're going to need that. Yeah, like since since I've been doing it since 2004, I've seen like a lot of things change, including the events themselves and how they're handled. So like with Smash, I mean, I started in 110-degree garages where we played for $40 as a grand prize, and it was sweaty. It sucked. No one cared. You wouldn't stream it. It was just we cared, right?
Yeah.
We cared about being the best. But then that started growing to the point where now, like I remember the first time we sat in bleachers, I'm like, oh my, this is crazy. And then it started developing. Now we got stages. Now we have a stream. Now we have real prize money sometimes. Now we have like content surrounding it.
Yeah.
These are all things that I never would have thought were possible or even necessary, right? But now that I have them, this is why I'm saying like it's good that people like you are working the big picture stuff, because I don't fully understand it. Because if you ask me like if content is necessary in esports back in 2006, I'm like, that's a waste of time. Like, what do you mean? People are here to watch the competition. And now I can't see a world existing without it. We fail without it.
Yeah, of course.
And so all these things have changed and grown. And with Smash specifically, it got to the point where now to run a successful big event, it costs a lot of money. And that's just like the standard now, because if you scale back, well, then people aren't going to consider it a legitimate event.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we put ourselves now. And it feels like that's not the part that can be scaled back, which sucks because it's still expensive now.
Yeah. I mean, even running tournaments and things like that, I literally was on a call about something like that this week, where we're discussing, standing up a tournament, and we were having a debate of like, how much money do we invest in the prize pool?
Yeah.
Just because we want to make sure people care about it.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
And that number is not small these days.
No. Even you got to keep exceeding it, or at least match it.
Yeah. And even at like an amateur level, right? Like if you want to bring amateurs in, they're excited to give them something, to give them, a broadcast, have casters on it. But I don't know if they'll also just not show up for their match if there's not enough on the line for them.
Right, absolutely. And that's what sucks, right? Sometimes players forget that the success of the scene depends on them as well. Right?
Exactly.
But I was just thinking too, because early on, the only thing that mattered in my mind was the sport and winning. The concept of a brand, like, it just didn't compute. I didn't care about it, didn't know about it, etc. And I see that a lot even in modern days when players come in, they might play the game very well, but they don't stream, they don't talk to their audience, they don't do anything like that. And I think one of the funny things is I learned it through Smash because we had to.
Yeah.
We simply weren't big enough to make money strictly by playing the game.
Yeah.
So then we all had to learn how to have our personalities out there. And I'm not saying these League of Legends pros are not interesting. They are. Plenty of them are. But a lot of them haven't just had the need to talk out loud or be public figures,
This is something that really aggravates me because, I do broadcasts and events, and a lot of that, I'm working with the social teams and the marketing teams, and we're trying to get these things out there so that we can build stories around people.
Yeah, you need it.
What audiences care about? Stories.
Absolutely.
Right? And you have so many of these players who are just closed books.
Yeah.
They don't emote much, and they'll talk a little bit, and then they're just going to go and scrim again.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. I think they. So with Smash, I think part of it is also that because it wasn't online, we were required to play at people's houses early on.
Yeah.
So in doing that, we built the type of social skills. I'm not saying we're the best socially, but I think with a lot of gamers, I feel like we're pretty damn good at it. And we learned that we needed Twitter early on. So we started tweeting early, and storylines started developing because if you go to someone's house enough to play, eventually there are stories that come about. You're hanging out with these people, you're talking to them, and those storylines are the main reason that Smash still exists today. People talk about the gameplay of Melee being crazy, and that's why it happens, but it's the storylines. And once other games, and they have been, obviously, start picking up on the need for that, and like content creators, etc., start recognizing the need to tell those stories, then like things will get bigger, because that's what it is with like professional sports is they don't just love the skill being displayed. They are attached to LeBron James.
Yeah.
They are fans. They're like, that's my person.
Yeah.
And the NBA and other big sports, they do a good job of letting you know who these people are to some degree, right? Obviously,
it's also their job,
yeah.
right? Like part of their job is performing
required
in their athletic realm, but also being media trained, like having a social presence, even if that involves having people run that for you or help you, right? That exists in esports. We have people to help with that, but they can only go so far without those athletes in esports taking that step.
Right. If you had the choice to make it an absolute requirement,
yeah, 100%.
The players,
without a doubt in my mind, because I think you can monetize a lot more. I think you can build a stronger brand a lot better that way.
You need to give people something to latch onto.
Yeah, right?
Not just the gameplay.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good players.
No, there's a ton of good players, but like, who are the ones that you think about this far down the line, right? It's people who also had a personality that you've also connected with.
Yeah.
So there's a few outstanding ones, right?
Where it's just carried by.
They're so good that they they exceed that.
Yeah. Which is, it's a fair thing too. But then that's part of their personality too. They're just godlike.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah. I got an interesting one for you. What do you think about the new orgs popping up, like DSG, the Disguised Toasts org, and Ludwig and Moist Critical doing Mogul Moves, or Moist Moguls is the team specifically. Yeah. Yes. How do you feel about that, and what do you think the angle is, and in what direction does it take things?
I think if we think about the conversation we had earlier about how we want players to have these personas and like be more social and out there, I think having creator-owned orgs will push things in that direction, because they're naturally going to try and create a lot of content around these players and these teams. So I think in that sense, it's good and it's pushing it that way. In terms of viewership, I don't know. I don't think they've been around long enough for me to say whether or not that viewership is sticky. Like, is that going to stay? Because a lot of these, these creators, they have these teams now, and they'll do, like Disguised Toast. He'll always do his co-stream when Valorant's
like live watching it while the tournament's going on.
Exactly, and he'll have higher viewership than the Valorant channel, right? Yep. But will those people go and watch the Valorant esport without him?
I think the answer might be no, but I don't know if it matters.
A ton. You know, what do you mean you don't know if it matters? Like, will they be fans of the esport without somebody like that?
So some will. Some will. I think definitely there will be some conversion, not 100%.
Yeah,
some conversion. And as long as you have this outlet where more eyes are watching it because of Disguised Toast or Moist Critical or Ludwig, then you're funneling in a new viewer base, even if not everybody. Kind of in the same way that like a documentary will bring in a bunch of new viewers. Not everybody. Some people will just watch the documentary and be like, that's pretty cool, move on with their lives, right?
Yeah.
But there will be people that, because of Disguised Toast, because they were strictly fans of his, decide to start checking it out. Yeah. It'll funnel some people.
And that's a net positive. Yeah. I don't see there being a negative to having them involved, really. Like, they're not disrupting the scene in any way.
No.
They're only kind of helping it at the moment, even if, like what I was saying, I don't know how long that'll last.
What I like is that they're treating it very respectfully. You know what I mean? Like, they're not the types of entities you'd see in the past that are just looking to make a quick buck and get out. I don't even think they're making a buck. I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't think they are, but they're still treating it.
Toast put out a video like a month or so ago, basically saying, like, I'm already down $1 million having this team.
All I see is this guy's tweets about how much money he's losing. I'm like, dude, does he like this?
What made me laugh is like being in an org environment, right? Is all of us were like, well, duh. Like, what did you expect when you came into this, man? Yeah. Like, did you just think it was going to make you money?
Yeah.
If it made anybody money, we'd still all be like, we'd be doing a lot better now. Right. So like, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah. Do you think they figure out how to, like, make it a more monetizable thing?
Possibly, just because they, like, everything they've known has been, how do I monetize this broadcast and or my brand, right? So if they're good at thinking about that and looking at esports as like their team, as their brand, maybe. But I think there's other obstacles there, like being able to broadcast it. You know, Valorant and Riot have been okaying a few people here and there to co-stream, but not everybody is allowed to do that.
Right.
So it's still really restrictive in that way. And other orgs or other, game publishers don't even do that.
Right.
You're not even allowed to do that. So
I also think that one thing that we lacked compared to professional sports or real life sports, that the content creator angle kind of tackles is the attachment to the brand, right? So while there are a lot of orgs out there like Dignitas, Liquid, C9, I don't feel like there's that much loyalty to the orgs themselves the way people would expect with like the Lakers or the Dodgers. It just isn't there. And they've even tried it with Overwatch, like on a regional basis, and even that's still not there. So you're thinking, what the hell do we need?
Yeah.
Like, we have these teams that have done well, and people still don't love this org.
Yeah.
We have a regional-based Overwatch team, and people still don't mess with it, and they're from the city. What is going on, right?
So,
but yeah.
What I will say is I think that is more a North America problem than it is a global problem.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the regional thing, right? In Europe, there's like Team Vitality. They're a French esport org. They act like football fans.
Okay.
Like they have chants. They have entire clubs that will come together. They'll pitch in money and make the massive flags to go into the stadiums with. In Brazil, they have massive culture like that as well. I think it's specifically in America that we haven't solved the problem yet.
Maybe we think we're too good to cheer on for a thing until it proves itself. That's how it is in LA, at least. Like, we're very tribal.
LA's
but like, you have to prove it to us or something.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. But what I was thinking earlier is just that when you have a content creator that does it, it's like there is that loyalty there, right?
To the person.
To the person. So it's like, it means a lot more for a fan to be engaged with Ludwig or Moist Critical than it does with like FlyQuest or C9. Like, it means more. This is somebody that they've watched, they've laughed at, they connected, etc. And then that in turn might make it so that they also attach to a team.
That's interesting, because I think like what we're kind of unpacking here is that the gaming and like the audience of gaming and streaming and esports tends to like to kind of connect to individuals. So like the issue, they're not connecting to brands like Liquid or FlyQuest as heavily. They're connected to the player. If that player moves to a different brand, they now support that brand just because of that player.
Yeah.
But if they support a creator as an individual, if that team changes, will they continue to support that creator?
Right.
Maybe.
What do you think they could do to get it the other way, where it's like just like a team?
I don't know. I think that's what everyone's trying to do right now is why do you care about our brand as an esport org? What are we doing that brings something good to your life that you feel happy supporting?
I have an idea.
Pitch it.
If you paid players millions of dollars like the way that they play basketball players, then I think you would get that loyalty. Just like if the play. Okay, so hear me out. This is an issue I've seen specifically as teams try to pivot over to content creation. Is they would do this thing where they would just pay a well-established content creator to be a part of the team. But then that content creator has zero loyalty to the org. Why would they? It's just a paycheck. And they don't really need the paycheck. It's just extra money, right? And obviously, I'm being facetious here. This isn't really the answer. But just imagine a world where the org is literally taking care of you in ways that you can't without the org. And you have a content creator or a player who starts going like just deep down is like, yeah, Liquid really takes care of me. Like, and then like they start expressing this kind of like, this is who I play for. This is my shit. I don't know if I could cuss, sorry, but
is that not what we've done already?
I don't know.
I think we tried that route, and what we did was we had a bid war to the top, and now we're paying all these players a ridiculous amount of money, and we're not getting the return on value. And we're in this issue right now of the money kind of leaving because
you know what? You're right. Maybe the answer is not more money.
I think we just did it.
But basically, I'm just saying, like, with the money issues that we've been having, I do feel that the reason we got as big as we did is partly due because we were throwing around big numbers. Like, once that started happening, I'll tell you this, in my experience, the reason my parents became okay with me doing this for a living was because then they started hearing about the real money. And it's not so much that my parents or a lot of people are just shallow that way. It's just that everybody on this planet understands the value of
real
money.
Though. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people don't, but it's a thing they relate to. It's like this equates to success. Therefore, if esports is signing a player for more money, then the world starts to go, oh, this is serious. This is real.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't have the infrastructure to support that, so it hurts, right?
Yeah, we're not making any money back off of that investment. Yeah.
So, like, do you think it hurts us to scale it back? Do you think, like, what do you think it does to perception?
That's a really good question because I do agree. I think, we had this like bid war up, right? But that brought in more money because people were like, oh, look, like we're paying all this money for this. And those are big numbers on these streams, right? That has to return value. And now we're all figuring out, oh, maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's something broken in that ecosystem. So I don't know. I think there needs to be a level setting with player salaries and the expectations of their roles, like we were talking about. They need to be a bit more social, a bit more of a public face, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think we've established enough at this point that if we lower those salaries, we're not necessarily going to hurt ourselves. Because I think
as a whole scene. Okay.
I think the scene is big enough now, and there's enough people who care about it that it's not going to go away. Okay. Like I personally don't believe esports will ever die.
Right.
Like if it dies, it's going back to what Smash was.
Yeah.
It's going back to its roots, and it'll blossom again on its own from there.
There are too many people who play video games and care about seeing good people play.
Yeah, exactly. It'll go back to just like looking on,
So you're okay with like scaling down some salaries, scaling down some of that stuff. What about players not being okay with it? You know what I mean?
That's out of my world. I don't make these decisions. Right? I think
because the thing is, the problem I see with it is, let's say an org is being responsible about it and saying, you know what, maybe this $3 million contract was actually a little ridiculous, so we're going to start doing like 600,000, 700,000, or whatever, and then that player's like, screw that, and then this other team's like, oh, we really want this player, okay, we'll keep it up. The players, I don't think they have that much loyalty. I think Smashers do. I did with Dignitas when I was with them because I had nothing.
Well, so yeah, I think Smashers do because they were never really brought into that loop initially, and so it was like, well, we're just doing it on our own.
$100 on Liquid,
yeah, exactly.
Mango on C9. Yeah. It's like we had nothing, and then y'all picked us up from the streets, and then now we love it, right? Like we are org people.
Yeah.
And imagine if you had that with bigger entities like your league players and etc. Right? Like, it could make things different. I mean, I'm telling you, the people who love Mango, they love Cloud9. They're buying the jerseys. Mango, I think, is one of the best selling for the org.
Yeah.
If not the best.
Same
selling.
with HBox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think about that, you think about who are the players on orgs that are extremely loyal to the org, HBox and Mango. And it translates to the fan base where they're like, I mess with C9 too because I mess with Mango.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there that people need to figure out.
We've seen players jump around to get that paycheck, right? But now we're seeing orgs who have kind of picked up that bill from player who's left another org saying we're going to scale back to be a bit more financially responsible. Those orgs are having trouble right now.
Oh, okay.
Because they picked up those bills. So I think we're kind of course correcting ourselves there. And I actually will say that I know a few players who are very, conscious of what they're being paid and how that may not last forever, and are okay with it because in their mind, I'm either going to make less money and be able to do what I love and be a professional video game player.
Right.
Like say that to yourself, right? I'm a professional video game player. That's pretty rad.
Yes.
Or I can continue to make this money and I help it all go away.
Yeah.
You
think they think that unselfishly?
I think there are some.
Some, yes.
We'll talk about that offline. But there are some who I think are aware of that possibility and want. I mean, obviously they've made enough now that they're okay with that.
Yeah.
But are aware of the fact that it needs to change.
That's a good point. Just back to something we were talking about earlier. I think if players understood better the need for their scene to be healthy, they would act more right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they would make the tweets because they know personalities and storylines are important. They would think about the salaries. They would think about what they're doing or asking because they know that they don't have a job if this thing dies and care about the scene. Whereas I think in a lot of the bigger esports, players don't have that concept. It's just the job, be good, etc. But they don't think about the health of the industry.
Literally brought in and set up to deliberately not have to think about that, right? Like they don't even have to think about food or laundry.
Yeah.
Like all their job is I play video game.
Yeah.
Right? But
that should change.
Yeah.
I think that should
not
change.
Sustainable.
So vibe check. Is esports gonna be okay or is it doomed?
No, I don't think esports is ever gonna be doomed. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be rough. And I don't know how long that rough period is going to be. I think we haven't seen the end of some orgs folding, maybe some overall ecosystems folding. I mean, LCS is hurting right now. I don't think that's necessarily going to go away, but can it recover? Yeah. So
I think as long as there's interest in the game and people playing the games well, which I don't think that ever goes away, then I think everything's okay and everything will correct itself. And eventually, orgs will fold. And things will become cheaper, and then that's when money comes back in.
Money will come back.
And then we grow and we know better now. So I don't think we're doomed. I just think we're going to struggle for a bit.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking.
Yeah, great chat, man.
Yeah, no,
it was fun.
It's fun picking your brain.
Yeah.
You definitely know a lot about the scene, and it's really cool to chat about this sort of thing.
Yeah, you as well, man.
Yeah,
it's been a good time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like, it was just like a weird time for everything, because there was once a time you were there. There were no sponsorships.
Yeah.
We were just grateful to get a game code. We saw
Yes.